Significant day today, exactly to the day, the 4th of March, the HMAS Yarra went down. 142 crew members went down with the ship, 13 survivors. I'd like to welcome you all here today. I'd like to welcome David Leviston, Gary Taylor, Jan Phillips and Commander Andrew Huff, Commanding Officer of RAN Recruit School, Councillor Angela Altair, Mayor of Hobsons Bay, Chaplain Kate Lord, RAN, Hyde Street Youth Band, Able Seaman Dorian Broomhall, Cerberus Bugler, staff and recruits of Taylor Division and Recruit School, staff of Rogers Division, Royal Australian Navy Recruit School, and staff and recruits of Navy Indigenous Development Program, TS Voyager Cadets, Rotary Club of Williamstown, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. On behalf of the Yarra National Memorial Committee, I welcome all of you to our service of remembrance. This service is to remember especially those who served and gave of themselves, many to make the ultimate sacrifice aboard the HMAS Yarra II 76 years ago on the 4th of March 1942. This service is dedicated to those gallant men that we remember today and always with pride. I would like to invite the Mayor of Hobsons Bay, Angela Altair, to come and give her speech, please.
Thank you very much, Christine, and welcome everyone. I want to extend a genuine thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of Hobsons Bay Council and all the people of Hobsons Bay, and of course my fellow councillors. I'm genuinely proud to be here with you all to remember the bravery of the people who served our country with distinction on the HMAS Yarra II. I'd also like to begin by acknowledging that we are gathered on the traditional land of the people of the Kulin Nation. We recognise the First Peoples' relationship to this land, and we offer our respect to their elders past and present, and indeed all elders gathered here today. I want to extend an apology on behalf of my fellow councillors in particular my ward councillors Jonathan Marsden and in particular Peter Hemphill. I don't need to tell Christine and any of the organisers of this wonderful memorial how involved Peter has been from the very instigation of this memorial, and I know that if he was here, if he could, he would certainly be here. I also want to acknowledge the presence of Honorary National Memorial Coordinator Mrs Christine Hirschfield, Commanding Officer Recruit School Commander Andrew Ho, Recruit School Chaplain Kate Lord, Taylor Divisional Officer Lieutenant Rebecca Holmes, Rogers Divisional Officer Lieutenant Stacey Sutherland, the staff and recruits of Taylor Division, the staff and recruits of the Navy Indigenous Development Program, Rotary Club of Williamstown members, another group of stalwarts who've been behind this memorial from the very start, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. At the outbreak of World War II, HMAS Yarra was serving in Australian waters, but the war quickly changed that. From July 1940, HMAS Yarra operated in the Red Sea and Persian Gulf. By November 1941, the ship moved to the Mediterranean, escorting supply ships into Tobruk. By February 1942, Yarra moved to Singapore, where she rescued more than 2,000 men from the burning troop ship Empress of Australia. On the 4th of March 1942, in the Indian Ocean south of Java, Yarra was escorting a small convoy to Australia. 3 Japanese cruisers and 2 destroyers found the convoy. The 38-inch guns of the Japanese cruisers were too much firepower for the convoy, and Yarra sank with the loss of 138 men. All officers perished, and only 13 sailors were rescued 5 days later by the Dutch submarine KX-1. Today we are gathered to remember their bravery and courage against the great odds the Yarra II and her convoy faced. I remember very well when the HMAS Yarra National Memorial was unveiled here in March 2003. I'd been a councillor for about 4 years then, and I remember full well that one of the people, the driving forces behind the installation of this amazing memorial was of course the late Angus Walsh. I remember him. Another fellow who has since died was our dentist, Ronnie Goldberg, he was known as, and they were among these marvellous people who made sure that this amazing memorial came to fruition. I'm proud to say of our little role, Peter Hemphill and mine, in that project, and there's a very faded plaque on that seat over there with our names on it. So it's nice to know that along with these brave men and the brave people of the Dutch submarine have been memorialised. As I say, the idea for the memorial was born when Angus Walsh, who served on the Warrego, a sister ship to the Yarra, was a guest speaker at a meeting of the Rotary Club of Williamstown, hence their long involvement. His account of the sinking of HMAS Yarra II and search for survivors struck a chord with the Rotarians, particularly, as I say, Ron Goldberg, and the club was soon actively gathering support for the memorial. The Australian Army prepared this site, and Rotarians fashioned the bronze sloop that we stand before today. I think it's one of the most moving memorials outside, the iconic memorials in Canberra and indeed in Melbourne, in my opinion. Each year, on the first Sunday of March, we gather to honour those lost from the HMAS Yarra II and support their friends and family as they pay their respects. The memorial group has also successfully campaigned for battle honours from HMAS Yarras I, 2 and 3 and organised a place in the Anzac Parade for people to march under the HMAS Yarra banner. I look forward to noticing that banner when they march on the 25th of April. Let me mention now a bit about the maritime heritage of this beautiful city. Hobson's Bay, as many of you know, has a very proud maritime heritage. Williamstown began life as a bustling maritime village, an atmosphere that remains today, albeit with the offerings of a modern society. The town grew in importance as a ship repair and mooring base, in line with the colony's growth. I have to say, those older of us who know when the dockyards were a bustling place would be shedding a tear or two knowing that it's pretty well been mothballed now. Williamstown, most importantly, was the birthplace of the Royal Australian Navy, and the naval dockyards were established there in the 1850s. Naval history is highlighted by the old Navy corvette Castlemaine, built in 1942, which is moored at Williamstown and open for inspection, and of course one of the most popular tourist attractions we have. At Point Gellibrand, the old time ball tower has stood the test of time since 1852. This important aid to mariners is located on the foreshore at the end of Nelson Place. And I want to give a plug for Williamstown Rotary because about 20 years ago, some more of their stalwarts worked hard to restore the time ball. And so another great salute to our hard-working volunteers in this city. So every day at exactly 1 p.m, the ball was manually lowered so ships anchored in the bay could accurately set their chronometers. Those visitors to Hobson's Bay, I would encourage to go and visit the time ball. It's on the magnificent Point Gellibrand and is just due west. But I've got to be careful about giving directions with all these naval brass around. The old tower, as I say, has been restored and modern computer technology now drives its mechanism, while ships now, of course, depend on satellite navigation. So in concluding, the HMAS Yarra National Memorial has great historical significance to the people of Hobson's Bay and indeed to the whole of Victoria and Australia.
The members of Taylor Division who are here are familiar with the story of leading seaman Ronald Taylor, known to everyone as Buck. Buck was a member of the crew of HMAS Yarra during the Second World War and had command of one of the ship's 4-inch guns. On this day, in 1942, Yarra was escorting 3 auxiliary vessels when the convoy was interrupted by a Japanese surface action group consisting of 3 heavy cruisers and 2 destroyers. Despite Yarra's gallant defence, all 4 Allied vessels were destroyed, the Yarra being the last to be sunk. Leading seaman Taylor, then aged just 24, remained on board after the order to abandon ship and stayed alone at his gun, firing slowly and deliberately at the enemy until he was killed shortly before the ship went down. We heard in our reading from the Bible the call for each of us to take up our cross. This means that each of us should shoulder the responsibilities, including the struggles and suffering that may accompany them, in order to fulfill the tasks that are allotted to us in our lives. In so doing, we will be part of something that is greater than just ourselves and our individual lives. We will become part of the great story of humanity in our common struggle for peace and prosperity for all people. Buck Taylor lived and died for this ethos, and along with the entire crew of HMAS Yarra, is remembered here today for the honour and courage that led him to take up his own cross in the service of a higher ideal. The men and women of Taylor Division and those of the Navy's Indigenous Development Program who are here today are the latest Australians to answer the call to take up their own crosses and to serve their country. They are ordinary people doing extraordinary things, If you get a chance after the service today, I encourage you to meet them, to listen to their stories and to thank them. May we all therefore be mutually encouraged and inspired to endure the struggles that each of us faces as we strive together to complete the tasks that life places before each of us. We come now to our prayers, and your response to the bidding, Lord, hear us, is, Lord, hear our prayer. Loving God, we commend to you the Queen of Australia, the Governor-General, and those who have been elected to all levels of government in Australia, especially the Mayor and Councillors of the City of Hobsons Bay, and all who work with them. Grant to them a spirit of justice and compassion, and a sense of dedication to the welfare of every Australian as they make decisions that affect our lives. Lord, hear us. Lord, hear our prayer. Loving God, we hold before you all members of the Royal Australian Navy, especially those who are currently deployed at sea. Give them courage in their struggles and protection from danger. Care for their families and loved ones so that they may be at peace when away from home. Lord, hear us. Lord, hear our prayer. I invite you to join with me in saying together the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, for ever and ever. Amen. I'm delighted that we have with us today the Hyde Street Youth Band, who will now accompany us as we sing the naval hymn. I invite you to stand and to join us in singing Eternal Father, Strong to Save. We're now going to read the psalm, and Lieutenant Stacey Sutherland will lead us. I invite you to join in the words that are in bold.
Some went down to the sea in ships, doing business on the great waters.
We saw the deeds of the Lord, his wondrous works in the deep.
For he commanded and raised the stormy wind, which lifted up the waves of the sea.
They mounted up to heaven, they went down to the depths, their courage melted away in their evil plight.
They reeled and staggered like drunken men, and were at their wits' end.
Then they cried to the Lord in their trouble, and he delivered them from their distress.
He made the storm be still, and the waves of the sea were hushed.
Then they were glad because they had quiet, and he brought them to the desired heaven.
Let them thank the Lord for his steadfast love, for his wondered works to the sons of men.
Let them extol him in the congregation of the people, and praise him in the assembly of the elders.
We now come to the wreath laying ceremony, and I invite Councillor Andrew Altair, Mayor of Hobsons Bay, to lay the first wreath. I invite Commander Andrew Howe, CEO of Recruit School at HMAS Yarra. I invite Mr. Gary Taylor of the HMAS Yarra National Memorial. I invite Mrs. Merrill James on behalf of the Shire of the Yarra Rangers. I invite Mrs. Kim Toth on behalf of the Taylor family. Other wreaths to be laid this morning. Thank you. Would you please stand as we lower the flags to half-mast and begin the memorial part of our service.
They have no grave but the cruel sea, no flowers lay at their head. A rusting hulk is their tombstone, a fast on the ocean bed. They shall not grow old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
We remain standing to sing together the Australian National Anthem.
Australians, all let us rejoice, for we are young and free, with golden soil and wealth for toil, our home is girt by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts, our beauty rich and rare. In history's page let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains that let us sing, advance Australia fair.
We remain standing as we sing the Royal Hymn.
Gracious Queen, long live our noble Queen, long save our Queen. Send her victorious, happy and glorious, long to reign over us, long save our Queen.
With God's blessing. Go forth into the world in peace. Be of good courage. Hold fast that which is good. Render to no one evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted. Support the weak. Help the afflicted. Give honour to all. Love and serve the Lord, rejoicing in the power of the Holy Spirit. And the blessing of God Almighty be among you and remain with you always. Amen. Please be seated as Mrs. Christine Hirschfield comes to conclude our service this morning.
I would like to make a few presentations. Councillor Angela Olke, could you come forward, please? Just a memento of our appreciation. Commander Andrew Howe, Commanding Officer HMAS Yarra II. The Divisional Staff and Recruits of Taylor HMAS Cerberus. Family, isn't it? Thank you very much. And finally, could a representative from the Hyde Street Youth Band come forward, please? I'd just like to make mention while everyone's in attendance that the memorial will be represented under the banner of the HMAS Yarra II in the Anzac Parade, and anyone who would be likely to attend would be made most welcome. Our numbers are dwindling significantly, so if you could find the time to support, Gary will be heading up the march, so anyone who would like to attend, please see you there on Anzac Day. Once again, I remind everyone that you're welcome to participate in our sausage sizzle, which will be held after we've been down to the memorial jetty behind me to strew flowers on the water. Thank you all for your attendance, and thank you to the recruit school. It's wonderful to have such a large representation of the future. Everyone here is looking at our future. It's just wonderful. Thank you very much.
I am sailing